You know the feeling. You wake at 3 in the morning and the house is wrong somehow. Too quiet, too dark. The corners of the room swallowed by a black you can almost touch. Your heart is already going before your mind catches up. There's nothing there. You know there's nothing there. But some old part of you isn't listening. Now take away the walls. Take away the ceiling, the streetlight leaking through the curtains, the switch on the wall that turns the night off with one finger. Take away everything that makes darkness a mood instead of a threat. That is where your ancestors lived every single night of their lives. The sun went down, and the world became a place that wanted to eat them. So what did they actually do out there, in that enormous dark? The answer is stranger and closer to you than you think. Start with the darkness itself, because you have honestly never seen it. Real dark. The kind with no city glow on the horizon, no phone, no distant porch light, is total. Hold your hand in front of your face, and it's gone. And into that blackness, every night, the world filled with sound. A branch cracks. Something breathes low in the grass. A shape you can't name moves just past the edge of the fire's reach. Your ancestors could not see what was out there, but they could hear that it was hungry. This was the hour the lions hunted, the hyenas, the leopards that dropped from trees. Daytime belonged to humans, with their sharp eyes and their weapons. But when the sun fell, the balance flipped. And for a few terrifying hours, they became the prey. So how did a soft, slow, clawless animal survive a world full of night hunters, with one impossible thing no other creature had? A piece of the sun kept burning on the ground. Fire changed everything. To a predator built on darkness, a flame was baffling and terrible. Bright, hot, alive, and held by these strange, upright apes who should have been easy meat. Most animals will not cross a ring of firelight, and every human who ever lived knew it in their bones. The fire pushed the black wall of the night back a few precious feet, and carved out a small circle where you were allowed to exist. Inside that circle you were safe. Outside it, you were food. Every night of the ancient world came down to that one glowing line, and someone had to keep it burning. Picture that circle now, from the inside. As the light drained out of the sky, everyone came in. This was not a choice you thought about. It was a pull as deep as hunger. The old, the young, the strong, the sick, all of them drifting toward the same small pool of light, pressing in close as the dark sealed shut around them. There is a reason a campfire still feels like the safest place on earth to you. There is a reason your shoulders drop when you sit beside one. Your whole line survived by gathering exactly like this, night after night, for hundreds of thousands of years. Shoulder to shoulder, faces lit orange, backs to the warmth, and eyes toward the dark. Together they were a wall. Alone, out past the light. A single human in that night simply did not last until morning. But you cannot all sleep at once when the dark is full of teeth. So they did something that quietly runs through your body to this day. They took turns. While most of the group slept, someone sat up. Someone fed the fire, watched the black beyond it, listened. And when that person grew heavy-eyed, they woke the next, and lay down in the warm spot they left behind. The old often took the late watch. They slept lightly anyway, and their eyes were the group's insurance against the dark. It's why, even now, one person in a house always seems wired for the night while others fade early. Those weren't personality quirks. They were shifts. A rota of guardians stretching back before history, each one holding the line for a few hours so the rest could close their eyes and trust the morning would come. And what do, sitting by a fire, when you cannot sleep and you cannot leave? You talk. The night handed early humans something the busy, dangerous day never could. Hours of stillness, together, with nothing to do but be awake. The daytime was for hunting, gathering, moving, surviving. But the night was for words. And around those fires, in the dark, something extraordinary grew. One voice would start. A hunt from a season ago. A flood the grandparents lived through. The great animal that got away. The others leaned in, and for a while the terror outside softened into something shared. Studies of fireside talk among people who still live this way found the daytime chatter was practical and small, but the night talk turned to stories, to spirits, to imagination. The fire didn't just keep them alive. It's where they became storytellers. So the stories deepened. When you sit in a tiny ring of light with an ocean of dark pressing in, the mind cannot help but ask what's out there and start to answer. The wind in the trees became a voice. The eyes flashing at the edge of the firelight became more than a leopard. They became a spirit, a warning, a god. Night was when the invisible world felt closest, when the living whispered about the dead, when a crack of thunder needed a name and a reason. This was where myth was born, not in temples, but in the dark, by the fire, with the whole unknowable night as the audience. Every religion, Every legend, every story you've ever loved, traces back somewhere to a human being staring into flames, afraid of the dark, deciding the darkness had to mean something. And then at last they slept, but not the way you do. Here is one of the strangest things we've learned about the ancient night. For most of human history, people didn't sleep in one long block. They slept in two. You'd go down, not long after dark, into a deep first sleep. And then, somewhere in the small hours, the whole camp would drift awake. And this waking was normal. People would tend the fire, murmur to one another, make love, pray, tell a quiet story, simply lie there thinking, and then sink into a second sleep until dawn. Old records are full of it, this ordinary midnight hour nobody feared. So that 3 a.m. jolt you hate, that lying awake certain something is wrong, it may not be broken sleep at all. It may be the ghost of an older rhythm your body still remembers. Now look up with them in that waking hour, and see the other half of the ancient night. Above the fire, with no glow anywhere on earth to drown it out, hung a sky you have almost certainly never seen. Thousands upon thousands of stars, the pale river of the Milky Way pouring straight overhead, close enough to feel. Night after night, your ancestors watched it wheel. And they noticed things. The same stars returned with the seasons. Certain ones rose just before the rains, or the herds, or the cold. So the sky became the first clock, the first calendar, the first map. They drew shapes between the stars and hung their stories there. A hunter, a bear, a sister lost to the dark. Long before writing, before farming, humans were up in the night, reading the one thing the darkness couldn't take, the lights above. But underneath the stories and the stargazing, the fear never fully let go, and it was never supposed to. Think about it. For 100,000 generations, the humans who felt a jolt of dread when the light died were the ones who stayed near the fire, stayed alert, stayed alive. The ones who wandered calmly into the dark did not come back to have children. So fear of the dark isn't a weakness the modern world should have burned out of you. It's a survival tool, carved so deep it's practically part of the body. That's why a child cries for a light in the hallway. That's why a grown adult, alone in a black house, feels the hair rise on their neck at nothing at all. You are not being irrational. You are running software written by a million nights of very real danger. Stack it all together and look at what those terrified, fragile people actually did with the night. They stole a piece of the sun and used it to hold back the dark. They gathered close and set guardians to watch, while the others slept. They filled the black hours with the first real stories, and out of those stories they built spirits, gods, and meaning. They read the stars and made the first calendar out of the sky. They even slept in a shape we've forgotten, waking in the quiet middle to simply be alive together. The night that should have destroyed a slow, soft animal instead became the workshop where so much of what makes us human was forged. They didn't conquer the dark by beating it. They gathered around a small fire, kept each other close, and turned the most dangerous hours of their lives into the birthplace of imagination. So tonight, when you flick off the lamp and the dark rolls in and some old animal part of you tightens for just a second before your mind says it's fine, don't brush it off. Feel what it really is. That flicker of unease is a message from every ancestor who ever sat up guarding a fire so the others could sleep. You are warm. You are safe. The walls around you were not lashed together against a leopard, and the light you're afraid of losing comes back with one touch of a switch. The darkness that once decided whether your bloodline saw another dawn is now just a quiet room and a soft bed and a night you get to sleep straight through. That old fear in your chest isn't something wrong with you. It's the proof that they made it. Every single one of them, all the way down to you. If that changed how the dark feels tonight, subscribe and stay curious.